I never thought I'd say this, but a plastic trash can nearly destroyed my sanity. You see, when you live in a neighborhood ruled by an HOA, every little thing, from the color of your shutters to the length of your grass, suddenly matters way more than it should. But in my case, the problem wasn't my shutters or my grass. It was my trash can, and the person responsible was my neighbor, Karen. Now, if you've never dealt with an HOA Karen before, let me paint you a picture. Imagine a woman with a permanent scowl baked into her face, sunglasses that practically swallowed her head, and a voice sharp enough to cut through sheet metal. She was the kind of neighbor who watched everyone else's business like it was a reality show made just for her. If a kid left a bike in the driveway too long, she'd take a photo and send it straight to the HOA. If someone's lawn had a brown patch, expect a fine in the mail. And if your car had one wheel parked a single inch over the curb line, well, Karen would call the tow company herself. But for reasons I still don't fully understand, she decided to fixate on me. More specifically, on my trash can. It started one Wednesday morning. Trash day in our neighborhood was always Tuesday, and I followed the rules exactly. Roll the can down the driveway Tuesday morning, let the truck pick it up, then wheel it. Back in by nightfall. Simple. Only that week when I came out to grab my bin, I found it tipped over. Not just tipped, knocked into the street, lid cracked open, garbage spilling out like a busted piñata. At first I figured maybe it was an accident. Raccoons, a stray dog, maybe even the wind. But then it happened again, and again, and always. Always. It was only my can. Meanwhile, I started noticing Karen. She always seemed to be there, standing across the street with her oversized coffee mug in one hand and her phone in the other. She never said anything, but I swear, there was a smug little smirk on her face every time I bent over to clean up the mess. By the fourth week in a row, I wasn't laughing anymore. I came home from work, saw my trash can sprawled across the sidewalk again, and that's when I spotted something that made my blood boil. A perfect red lipstick stain right on the lid, the same shade Karen wore every single day. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't animals. It was her. From that moment on, it became a game. Every week I set my trash can out, and every week she found some new way to knock it over. Sometimes I'd find boot scuffs on the plastic. Sometimes she'd drag it a few feet down the street just to mess with me. One time, she even wedged it halfway into my rose bushes. And here's the kicker. She never admitted it. If I asked, she'd just tilt her head and say, "Oh, Ryan, maybe you should get a sturdier trash bin. Not everyone buys the cheap ones." You know, that was when I realized this wasn't going to stop on its own. Karen wasn't just being a bad neighbor. She was waging a silent little war against me, and my trash can was the battlefield. And trust me, she had no idea what I was capable of when I finally decided to fight back. Part 2. I told myself I wasn't going to stoop to Karen's level. After all, I had a job, a family, and better things to do than obsess over whether my trash can stayed upright for 24 hours. So at first, I tried the nice guy route. The next morning, I walked across the street, plastered a smile on my face, and said, "Hey, Karen, morning. Listen, have you noticed anyone messing with my trash bin lately? It keeps getting knocked over." She blinked at me behind those bug-eyed sunglasses and sipped her coffee slowly, like she was savoring the moment. Then she tilted her head and said, "Well, Ryan, maybe if you actually read the HOA guidelines, you'd know that bins left too close to the curb are a hazard. Maybe yours just, falls because it's not properly placed." I forced a laugh. "It's in the exact same spot as everyone else's." "Oh, I wouldn't know about that." She gave me that fake sweet smile. "I just know that some people care more about keeping our community presentable than others." Translation: she wasn't going to admit anything, and she definitely wasn't going to stop. So I tried the second approach, prevention. I bought heavy-duty bungee cords and strapped the lid shut. I placed bricks around the wheels so it wouldn't tip. I even put a little camera above my garage, angled at the driveway. For a week, it worked. The can stood tall, unbothered. Then came Tuesday night. I peeked out my window around 11 p.m., and there she was. Karen, marching across the street in her robe and slippers like some deranged trash ninja. She glanced left, glanced right, then gave my can a hard shove. It barely budged against the bricks, and I swear I heard her mutter something under her breath. But she wasn't done. She actually crouched down, unhooked my bungee cord, and tipped. The whole bin over with both hands. Trash spilled everywhere, fast food wrappers, coffee grounds, junk mail. And she just walked away. I had her on camera, clear as day. I thought, finally, this is it. She's busted. The next morning, I marched down to the HOA office, video on my phone, ready to end this once and for all. But when I showed the board, they exchanged awkward glances. The president, a guy named Tom with the personality of a stale cracker, cleared his throat and said, "Ryan, we appreciate your concern, but it looks like you left your bin unsecured. Our bylaws state that all trash must be properly contained. Maybe Karen was just trying to help." I stared at him. Help? By dumping my garbage across the street at midnight? He shrugged. Well, she is one of our most active members, and technically, you're the one violating Code Section 14B by leaving refuse loose. That's when it hit me. Karen didn't. Just enjoy knocking over my trash can. She was using the HOA as her shield. No matter what she did, they'd back her up. Over the next few weeks, she escalated. If I put my bin out a minute before 7 a.m., she reported me for early placement. If I brought it in 5 minutes after sundown, I got a warning for late retrieval. Twice she even called animal control, claiming my garbage was attracting stray dogs. Each time I had to pay a fine or file some ridiculous appeal that went nowhere, and the worst part, she always did it with that same smug smile like this was all just a game to her. I tried ignoring her. I tried talking to her again. I even offered, half-jokingly, to buy her a coffee if she promised to leave my can alone. Her reply? "Oh, Ryan, it's not me. Maybe if you weren't so careless, people wouldn't notice your trash." That word, the way she said it. Like my entire existence was just one big pile of garbage she wanted out of her perfect little neighborhood. By the end of that month, I wasn't just frustrated. I was angry. Furious. Done playing nice. And that's when I decided, if Karen wanted to keep knocking over my trash can, I was going to give her one she definitely didn't see coming, parts. By the time the 3rd month rolled around, I couldn't leave my driveway without wondering what fresh hell Karen had cooked up for me. It was no longer just about the trash can, it was about control. She wanted me humiliated, and the HOA gave her the green light to do it. One Thursday morning, I stepped outside to find not only my trash can tipped over, but a bright yellow citation taped right on the lid. Violation, unsightly debris. The kicker? Karen was standing across the street, phone in hand, pretending to take pictures of her flowers. I called out, "Really, Karen? Wasn't enough to spill my coffee grounds everywhere? You had to fine me for it too?" She lowered her phone, smirked, and said, "Rules are rules, Ryan. Maybe if you kept things a little cleaner, people wouldn't complain." People. That was her favorite word. She always made it sound like the whole neighborhood was against me, when in reality she was the only one who cared. Still, the fines kept coming. One week it was trash not stored properly. The next, container blocking sidewalk access. At this point, my garbage can had more violations than a getaway car. I wasn't the only one who noticed, either. My next-door neighbor, Jeff, came over one evening shaking his head. "Dude, she's got it out for you. I've seen her push your bin over myself. Why don't you just report her?" "I did," I told him, pulling out my phone. "I even have video proof. The HOA doesn't care." Jeff let out a low whistle. "Then you've got 2 options. Live with it or fight dirty." I laughed, but the truth was settling in my chest. He was right. I had tried everything. Being nice, being firm, even being patient. None of it mattered. Karen had the board, wrapped around her perfectly manicured finger. The final straw came 2 weeks later. It was a Tuesday evening, and I'd just gotten home from work. I pulled into the driveway and immediately froze. My trash can wasn't on the curb where I'd left it. It wasn't in the street either. No. Karen had dragged the entire bin across my lawn and dumped it right on my front porch. Garbage everywhere. Coffee filters, chicken bones, soda cans, greasy napkins. It looked like someone had detonated a landfill on my welcome mat. I stormed across the street, heart pounding. Karen was watering her roses like she hadn't just committed suburban. "Warfare! Karen!" I snapped. "Are you out of your mind?" She turned slowly, gave me that fake sweet smile, and said, "Oh, Ryan, maybe if you didn't leave your trash out so long, things like this wouldn't happen. This neighborhood has standards. Some of us care enough to enforce them." I clenched my fists so tight my nails dug into my palms. "You can't just—" "Can't I?" She cut me off, smirk widening. "The HOA already knows about this little mess. In fact, I'll be filing a complaint tonight. You should really be grateful, Ryan. I'm teaching you how to be a better neighbor." That was it. The line had been crossed. She wasn't just messing with my bin anymore. She was marching right up to my doorstep and shoving garbage in my face, literally. That night, I sat in my garage, staring at the cracked, dented plastic of my poor trash can, and something inside me shifted. If Karen wanted a war, she was going to get one. But this time, I wasn't going to fight on her terms. No more arguing. No more fines. No more begging the HOA for fairness. I was going to build a trap. A trash can so perfectly designed, so impossibly engineered, that when Karen made her next move, she wouldn't just knock it over. She'd walk straight into a nightmare she'd never forget. And the best part? She'd never see it coming. Part 4. I don't think I slept more than 3 hours that night. My brain kept replaying the sight of garbage strewn across my porch, Karen's smug smile, and the HOA's spineless excuses. By sunrise, I wasn't just angry anymore. I was focused. If the board wouldn't stop her, then it was up to me, and I had just the idea. See, I've always been a bit of a tinkerer. Nothing crazy, but I grew up fixing cars with my dad, messing with wiring, and building the occasional backyard project. I figured if Karen loved tipping over trash cans so much, then I'd give her one worth tipping, a can she wouldn't walk away from laughing. Step 1 was reinforcement. I bought a brand new, heavy-duty industrial trash bin, twice the weight of my old one, with a Loctite lid that snapped shut like a bear trap. Step 2 was camouflage. On the outside, it looked completely normal, just another black plastic, lined up with the rest. But the inside? That was my masterpiece. I lined the interior with a pressure-activated dye pack, the kind banks use during robberies. Took some creative shopping and a late-night trip online, but let's just say I found what I needed. One little jolt and the pack would explode, spraying bright blue ink everywhere. Step 3 was baiting the trap. Karen was nothing if not predictable. Every Tuesday night, like clockwork, she'd creep out around 11 p.m. and accidentally knock my bin over. All I had to do was wait, but I wasn't done. See, I wanted more than just a stain on her hands. I wanted proof, undeniable, irrefutable, proof that even the HOA couldn't spin in her favor. So I installed a hidden camera inside my mailbox, angled perfectly at the curb. High resolution, motion-activated, night vision. If Karen so much as breathed on that trash can, I'd have it on video. For days, I walked past that bin with a knot of excitement twisting in my chest. Part of me wondered if I was going too far. What if the dye stained her clothes permanently? What if she tried to spin it back on me somehow? But every time I saw the cracks in my old bin, every time I thought about those citations piling up on my fridge, the doubt burned away. This wasn't just payback. This was justice. Tuesday night came. I sat in my darkened living room, lights off, camera feed pulled up on my phone. The street outside was silent, only the occasional flicker of a passing car's headlights. My heart pounded with every tick of the clock. 10:45. Nothing. 11:02. A motion alert buzzed on my screen. There she was. Karen. Bathrobe tied tight, slippers shuffling, phone in one hand and that massive mug of tea in the other. She glanced around like she always did, then set the mug down on the sidewalk and zeroed in on my bin. I leaned forward, barely breathing. She gave the can a push. It didn't budge. She frowned, tried again, harder this time. Still nothing. That's when she crouched down, muttering something I couldn't hear, and wrapped both hands around the lid. She pulled. Click. The dye pack detonated with a sharp pop. A burst of brilliant blue sprayed upward, coating her face, her robe, even the sidewalk around her. Karen screamed, a high-pitched, furious shriek that echoed down the block. She stumbled back, tripped over her own slippers, and landed flat on her butt in the grass, flailing like she'd been attacked by a wild animal. I nearly choked, trying not to laugh too loud. But the best part? The camera caught every second. Every frame of her sneaking up, every tug on the bin, every glorious explosion of dye. There was no spinning this, no helping the neighborhood, no accidentally securing loose trash. This time, Karen had outsmarted herself. As she scrambled to her feet, dripping blue ink, she glanced around desperately, and her eyes locked right on my window. Even in the dark, I know she saw me grinning like the devil himself. She bolted, back across the street, leaving a trail of blue footprints on the pavement. And I just sat there, phone still recording, heart pounding with the thrill of victory. The trap had worked. But little did I know. The fallout was going to be even bigger than I imagined. The next morning, I walked outside like it was just another trash day. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and there, right in the middle of the cul-de-sac, was Karen. She was standing by her mailbox, arms crossed, bathrobe still faintly stained with streaks of blue. No amount of scrubbing could hide it. Her hands, her slippers, even her hair had a bluish tint, like she'd lost a fight with a paint factory. Neighbors were slowing their cars as they drove past, staring, whispering. Kids on bikes pointed and laughed. Karen had always prided herself on being the polished queen of the HOA, and now she looked like she'd gone swimming in a Smurf pond. I couldn't have scripted it better. Of course, she didn't take it quietly. By noon, I had an official notice taped to my door. Complaint, neighborly harassment and unsafe devices. Mandatory appearance before HOA board. Perfect. That was exactly what I wanted. 2 days later, I walked into the HOA meeting with my phone in hand. The board sat in their folding chairs at the front of the clubhouse, looking half bored, half annoyed. Karen was already there, arms flailing dramatically as she told her side of the story. And then this man rigged his trash can with some kind of chemical bomb. She shrieked. Look at me. My nails are ruined. My hair. Do you know how much it costs to fix hair like this? Hundreds of dollars. He's a menace, and he needs to be fined, evicted, something. I waited until she was done, then calmly set my phone on the table. Actually, I said, my voice steady, I think you should all take a look at this first. I hit play. The room went silent as the footage rolled. There was Karen, sneaking across the street at 11 p.m., shoving at my bin, tugging the lid, and then, boom, a glorious explosion of blue, her scream echoing through the speakers. The camera caught every single detail. When the video ended, you could have heard a pin drop. Tom, the HOA president, cleared his throat. Well, that does seem fairly conclusive. Karen shot to her feet. That video is doctored. He's framing me. I was trying to... Trying to what? I cut in, leaning forward. Trespass on my property? Destroy my trash can? Harass me week after week while you hid behind the HOA? Her face turned red beneath the blue stains, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. For once, she had no comeback. The board shuffled papers, whispered among themselves, then finally announced their decision. Karen would be issued formal violations for harassment, trespassing, and property damage. All of her pending complaints against me thrown out. My fines waived, and the cherry on top? She was suspended from active HOA duty for 6 months, which meant for the first time in years, the rest of the neighborhood could breathe without her micromanaging every blade of grass. I walked out of that meeting with my head held high, phone still in my pocket, and a smile I couldn't wipe off my face. Karen. She stormed out the side door, blue dye still clinging stubbornly to her cuticles. For weeks afterward, the neighborhood buzzed with the story. People stopped me to say, about time someone stood up to her. Jeff, my next-door neighbor, actually brought me a 6-pack and said, "Ryan, you're a legend." Even the mailman chuckled one afternoon and whispered, "Heard about the Smurf incident. Nice work." As for Karen, she kept her distance. No more trash games, no more complaints. Every Tuesday, my bin sat untouched on the curb, solid and upright, just the way it should be, and every time I rolled it back to my garage, I couldn't help but smile, because in the end, the lesson was simple. If someone insists on treating your life like trash, sometimes the best thing you can do is give them a can they'll never forget.